Hi everyone, I'm Dennis from Boulder Sounds. Thanks for tuning in. This will be a walkthrough of our new sample library for Native Instruments Kontakt. This is a Vietnamese traditional instrument. It's called a Dan Bau. It's a single string monochord instrument. You can see the string probably better like that. And the single string, in the way I sampled it, was tuned to C2. And you can see it has this really nice, long, lovely sustain. The way the instrument is traditionally played, though, is you use a pick. I have a bamboo pick here, and with the other part of your hand, you create a harmonic along the harmonic node points of the string, just like you would maybe on an electric or an acoustic guitar. The pitch variations are created with this pitch rod, kind of like a whammy bar. So the way it's played is you play those harmonic node points. You go up to another node point, and you bend the whammy bar, so to speak, to create the pitches you need. It's also used to create vibrato and all these crazy ornaments, which are really beautiful sounding. And so did we sample the actual movement of the pitch rod? No, we didn't, because we left that up to you. We built that into the software using KSP scripting. So you can have fun doing that yourself, because that's half the fun of playing the instrument, is doing that stuff on your own. So what we did was we used Big Bob's SIPS, S-I-P-S script, the late Big Bob, and Bo Clausen integrated it into his own KSP script for this instrument. So you have immense flexibility regarding pitch bending, vibrato, etc. It's really a lot of fun to play. I want to talk about the sample sources just a little bit. The main sample source that you should use on this instrument is the magnetic pickup, which is placed down here. It's a single coil pickup, just like an electric guitar. You can see the 1/4-inch cable coming out the side of the instrument. And notice below the instrument, there's a sound port there. So I decided to put a microphone in there, a small diaphragm mic, just to pick up a little bit of the airy quality of the instrument, a little bit of an acoustic sound. I don't recommend you use that sample source as the main sound of the instrument. Generally use the magnetic pickup to give the fundamental sound of the Dan Bau. This you can just add to it for a little bit of air, or if you want to do some creative sound design, great, go for it. You can edit them totally independently. They're phase locked. You can do all sorts of crazy sounds with it. And I'll talk about the editing later in the video of all the things you can do to the different sound sources. So I hope you enjoy it. It's got this really evocative, expressive quality. And I think you'll have fun, especially if you really enjoy playing like Moog synthesizers, you know, single lines, monophonic lead lines. You'll feel right at home with this instrument. Okay, let's take a look at the software instrument. So here we are in the Dan Bau default instrument. And just a little bit about the documentation. I'm in minimized mode at the moment. I'll go to maximized mode and make sure your info button is lit up. If that is lit up, then when you put your mouse over a knob or a button, it will show you at the bottom of Kontakt what the function of that particular button is. It's built-in mouse hover over help. Also, there's a built-in menu right in Kontakt itself if you prefer to read about the instrument that way. Various sections of the instrument. And not only that, we have a beautiful PDF manual for you as well. And you can scroll through that. This has a nice linkable contents page here. Various pictures of the Dan Bau, a little bit of history, and lots of good information there for you. So here we are now on the main page of the instrument panel. We have two panels, instrument and effects. We'll start with the instrument panel. Now you'll notice the effects column over here does not disappear. It stays there when you're on the instrument panel, because that way you can turn your effects on and off very quickly. If you want to edit them in more detail, then you would go to the effects panel and use that. There's a drop-down menu here on the lower right, which shows you various sub-pages of the instrument panel. So for now, let's just give a listen to this. Right now we're just hearing the pickup where the microphone samples are not turned on. So this is kind of the traditional way that you hear the Dan Bau. So this octave that you're hearing right now, these are the open strings of the Dan Bau. Starting from this next C note here, we have the harmonic samples. And the very last octave, as I mentioned before, is the highest sample stretched an octave. Pretty evocative sounding, isn't it? I love it. So now I'll show you some editing features on the instrument panel's main page. So the pickup is turned on. I can change the volume with this volume knob. Very simple. If I want to edit the pickup, click on the edit pickup button. And you can see we have a button off to the left. It says edit EQ/envelope. This toggles back and forth between what view you're having. So for the moment, I'm going to leave the EQ alone. I'm going to go to click on that again, and you can see I have amp envelope settings now that I can tweak for the pickup samples. I also have sample start, as well as a transient attack shaping tool. So very simply, if I wanted to move more into the sample, just increase that. So now it has a softer edge because we're hearing the sample further in. If I want to slow down the attack, I can just go down to the attack parameter in the envelope. Much softer attack. And then I can change the curve, convex or concave, of the attack slope. Right, so it has quite a bit of a different sound. Notice here we have a drop-down menu that says Save Preset. You can save whatever settings you make per instrument. You have 6 slots, and then you can save them as a bank. And I've also filled them in with settings of my own, different amp envelope articulation settings for you to play around with a little bit. Okay, let's turn on the microphone and see what that sounds like. And I'll close the pickup. So the microphone samples have a little more percussive, boxy attack sound to them. And like I said, they're just there to complement the pickup. But so we can open the microphone editing options. And if I want to go to EQ, I can just click on this button. It'll toggle back to an EQ. We have a choice of a solid G EQ, or we have a 1, 2, or 3 band EQ. And all these preset slots are filled in for you to play with. But just to give an example, so the microphone EQ button is off. Make sure you turn it on. And let's say I just want to drop out some of that mid-range. And I want to boost up some of the high. I'll get rid of even more of the low. Okay, let's see what that sounds like with the pickup. Kind of interesting, and we also have a phase invert button. When both sample sources are turned on, the microphone and the pickup, you can invert the phase with this button. So lots of sound sculpting options there. So now let's take a look at the drop-down menu. Let's go to the next page, which is the pitch bend page. All right, so we have two pitch bend columns. The reason for that is we want to give you as much flexibility in pitch bending with your pitch wheel, because that's very much a part of the sound of the instrument. And this will really get you to hit your target notes accurately. It's nice to also move the wheel and not be so accurate, but so here's how this works. Notice it says pitch bend up is set to 3 semitones. Pitch bend down is -3 semitones. So up, pitch bend down. In the next column, it says pitch bend 2. Well, that's set differently. 5 semitones up, 5 semitones down. How do we engage that? We do that by this controller. The initial default of this controller is 64, which is your sustain pedal. You can change that to another controller if you wish to. So when I step on my sustain pedal, notice the button lights up that says pitch bend 2. And now if I bend upward, it'll be 5 semitones. And down, it'll be 5. If I release it, I'm back to my 3 semitones. The link buttons will change. If you click the link button and I move this first pitch bend, say up to 5, you'll notice the one below it goes down to -5. So they're linked together in their values conversely. Another thing you can do with this is you don't have to have the top pitch bend setting and the bottom be negative and positive. You could have them both positive. So for example, this is 5 semitones, and maybe I'll set the one below it to 9 semitones. So if I bend my pitch bend to the right, I get 5 semitones. If I go to the left, so both of them went in an upward direction. So I don't necessarily have to have a negative direction on the bottom knob setting. Let's go to the drop-down menu again, and below that we have the vibrato page. As I mentioned in the introduction, this is Big Bob's SIPS, S-I-P-S script that Bo has integrated into this instrument. Big Bob was a very generous fellow. He has since passed on, and he allows developers to use his scripts in libraries. So rather than get into this in detail, I just want to point out to you that in the manual, there's a section devoted to this scripting, and it tells you what each parameter does. But in a nutshell, what it does is it gives you a great deal of variety of vibrato style, certain randomization, different waveforms to choose from, and it just sort of goes on and on. Also, we have select preset menu. This is for the vibrato settings, so you can make your own presets, you can save them, load them as a bank if you want. I've filled them up with 6 presets to start out. So just like with the EQ page and the amp envelope page where you can save your own presets, the same is true with the vibrato settings as well. Vibrato is very important in this instrument, so it's nice to really have all these controls. Thanks, Bob. So let's move down to the next drop-down menu page. Below the vibrato page is the settings page. Under settings, we have a column that says mono/poly, monophonic or polyphonic. The Dan Bau is a monophonic instrument. Since it is a single-stringed instrument, you can only play one note at a time. But since we are in the virtual world, we can click on this button and change it to polyphonic, and then we can have multiple Dan Bau notes at once. So you could create some cool sounding chordal instruments with this, some nice pads if you slow down the attack a bit, add effects to it, all sorts of things you can do with that. Below that, if I switch back to monophonic mode, we have a latch mode, mono latch on or off. So if I turn that on, here's what that does. If I play, for example, an A note, a low A, then I play a note above it, and I release that upper note, it automatically goes back to the lower note. So this is something that would be pretty much impossible to do on the actual instrument, but it's a cool sound, I think. In the next column, velocity, this is simply how much velocity affects the volume of the Dan Bau. So this is the default setting. You can turn it 100% or 0%, depending on your touch on the instrument. The cutoff is a filter, and what that does is it opens or closes the filter a certain amount, depending on your velocity as well. All the way to the right is turned off, and then gradually, as you move to the left, you have different filter settings. See, that's very dark versus this direction. It's a much more subtle low-pass filter sound. Okay, so let's quickly move on to the effects panel. We have a whole arsenal of effects to offer you from within Kontakt. From the top down represents the signal flow of the effects. Compressor, distortion, EQ/filter, chorus, delay, reverb, cabinet, or space IR convolutions. Make sure the button is turned on if you want to hear the effect, otherwise you won't hear it at all when you're doing any editing. So the first effect is compressor. We have a drop-down menu. We have 3 different compressors to choose from. I really like this FB feedback compressor, and this setting of 20 dB on the threshold works really well for this instrument. And again, we have a drop-down menu, so you can save your own effect settings. So you can save your own banks. Next time you load the instrument, it'll be there to work with just the way you left it. The next effect is distortion. We have tape, twang, screamer, and jump. Again, drop-down menu, save your own effects. EQ or filter. So we can either choose between a 1, 2, or 3 band EQ or the solid G EQ, or low-pass filters, high-pass filters, and band-pass filters. On the chorus, we have a drop-down menu. There's more than chorus. There's flanger, phaser, and rotator. Delay, very simple delay. Reverb, this is Kontakt's built-in reverb, which is not as CPU intensive as the IR convolution reverbs. And again, you can do all your various parameters and save them as a bank. We have a cabinet, drop-down menu, all sorts of guitar cabinets. We have a Leslie cabinet here at the bottom. Space IR convolution. Drop-down menu, we have ambience, chambers, churches, halls, plates, and rooms. If you're on a certain effect and you want to get back to another one quickly, what I do is, let's say right now I'm on the space page. If I just want to edit my chorus, I can click on that effect, turn it off, turn it back on, and it automatically takes me to that page. Or I can use this drop-down menu and just choose whichever effect I wish to edit. So that's the Dan Bau instrument, and I think you'll find it to be something really special. And you don't need to be playing Asian music or writing Asian music to use these sounds. It's just a unique sound to itself. It really has a beautiful melodic singing quality to it. So I hope you enjoy it. And best wishes to you all from Boulder, Colorado.